today was amazing. The fact that I got out and got a fucking haircut is just incredible. And also, I had a couple of sneaky drinks while I was outside. They were legal because I was sat outdoors with friends that were socially distant. But what a day. Amazing. London finally opened up to a small degree, and these little freedoms are so welcome. But yes, freshly shorn hair, freshly abused liver, freshly filled lungs of air. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. But hi, how are you? Are you well? Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're well. Today was a really, really lovely day. The small victories are things that I appreciate, you know? And I think we all do. But yes, hi, cheers, here's to you. So today, on this week's chat, I'm speaking to an old creative, I wanted to say pocket rocket, but that sounded like the wrong thing. That's not what I meant at all. But like a dynamo. There you go. That dynamo is SK Shlomo. SK Shlomo. Sorry, I've had a few cocktails because I've been out. I got a haircut. So exciting. Hello everyone, thank you. Hi Lulu, how's it going? Hi Brittany, lovely to see you. And hey, Shlomo's here. There we go. Connectings, and thank you for the compliments. I think it's a bit weird because when the wind blows, it all goes to shit, and you can see my ball patches. It's just a bit fucked. I forgot what wind was like, you know. Hey, bro.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm very well, bro. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for introducing me as an old creative. That was very
I
kind
know.
of you.
I'm so sorry. But you know, all of my presenter bullshit just goes out the window when I've had a few drinks. I'm just like, you know, I could present and hold it down. But today, for some reason, the gates have been opened because I was outdoors.
Yeah.
Having drinks. It was just like, fuck. Yeah. How are you, bro? You well?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm good. I'm kind of jealous. Although also just a bit terrified. Like I'm struggling a bit with the whole, this kind of intermediary phase of unlocking. Like when it happened last time, I found it quite hard because it's like, oh, there is live music happening, but it's heavily restricted, and I don't know. I just kind of I either prefer it when it's just fully locked down, and at least I know, at least it's clear what's going to happen, or just let us get back to it. Like that's kind of
the uncertainty is a bitch. It's proper long.
It hurts.
It's proper long. I think that's the thing is that I think like I'm sure you know this, but last year for me there was like these glimmers of hope for certain gigs, and then they just got crushed. And so that rising expectation, and I'm a pessimistic bastard anyway, like a positive pessimist. I sort of inevitably expect the worst to happen, but it fucked me up, you know, as a cynical bastard, you know. So yeah, how was it for you, man? It must have been just as soul crushing.
Well, I feel like the first half of the first lockdown, I was very much holding my breath, and it was like, you know, this can't last forever. And we kept on rescheduling tours. And then I really started to find my kind of my mojo with it and started to really, really enjoy live streaming. So I live streamed every Thursday for pretty much this whole year. It's been incredible. And it's lovely to like broadcast to an international audience and like really push myself in terms of like, I've done a completely new show every week. And now I'm a little bit starting to feel like I'm going to have to hold my breath again, because it's like, oh, if people are going out, are they going to want to watch live streams? But I'm still not in a position I can do shows, so I'm just going to have to wait. Like, oh, it's kind of horrible.
Yeah, it is that whole intermediary bit. But I was talking to a friend of mine about whether do we continue trying to program for November, for example, like do we try and aim for fucking gigs? And there was that energy that I had midway through. I was like, fuck it, we should keep trying just in case it happens. And if it doesn't, fine. At least we fucking
we're used
try.
to it. We're used to the disappointment now.
And you know what? Being an independent musician, you're used to disappointment and failure on the regs anyway. So, like, the only difference is that, you know, that you won't play the gig.
Yeah. That's it. There's nothing to lose anymore. Like we practice. It's been a very good exercise in dealing with loss, coping with loss, bouncing back, reinvention, all the things that, you know, we always read about in our kind of how to be creative textbooks.
And also, fuck them all, because the reality is a whole different fucking ballgame. If you want to stay in and just have a wank the entire week,
everyone else is.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what? This is the other thing. So working for myself, and I'm sure you went through this as well as an independent musician, is there are two major factors that to get over. One was the wanking hump, and the other one is the social media hump. Okay. You know, so it's just like, I'm going to sit down and do this, but there's just so much wanking to do. And then also so much social media to do. And now the whole world understands our pain. It's, you know, everyone's on the same page now.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone's at it, isn't it? Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that was quite a fucking straight in there. I thought we'd actually have some chats about, you know, how we met and everything. But nope,
straight to the...
No foreplay, just straight to the intimacy. But yeah, bro. So... a bit of background on both of us, I guess. So we met at the first ever Foreign Beggars show.
Right, man.
At the Underworld.
That's going back, huh? The Underworld. Yeah. I remember that night so clearly because I was so young. I was like 19 and I was like, yeah, that was one of my first ever gigs. And it was my first ever... experience of the kind of UK hip hop scene, and like I didn't understand that this was like royalty. 'Cause that night you had like Skinny Man, Jest, Task Force, like everybody got up on the mic that night, and I was like, who are these guys? And my friend who knows all about it was like, these guys you're sharing the stage with royalty, and I was like, sweet, this is great.
Well, I don't give a fuck. I'm royalty too.
I am now.
But so that's it. So you as a beatboxer, and I didn't mean to say old creative at the start. I'm very sorry about that.
I'm just saying, it's fine.
But I mean, that is actually what I said because I'm just so fucking excited about this haircut. You don't understand that haircut. I trimmed everything today just out of like sheer like happiness. I was just like, I can groom.
Yeah.
Like, yes. Anyway, enough about that. So back to you. As a beatboxer, like what was your story before you got on stage for the first show with Foreign Beggars at the Underworld in like 2001, I think, or 2000?
No, it would have been 2000. It might have been late 2002 or early 2003 because I definitely left home, and I left home in the middle of 2002, but I'd only just left home. So up until that point, I'd been like an absolute music fanatic. Started playing drums when I was 8 years old. My parents bought me a drum kit, and then they asked me not to practice the drums about 2 hours later.
That's a typical parental mistake, right? It's like, hey, child, be creative. And then when it involves noise, you're like, child, shut the fuck up. Yes.
The neighbours phoned in literally within minutes, but they gave me the drum kit on a Sunday morning. Who gives a child a drum kit? Like, do you know what I mean? 7 a.m. on a Sunday and not expect them to like just bash the shit out of it. So that happened, and that's how I found beatboxing because I had to find ways to not annoy neighbours. But I carried on drumming. I played in I kind of played orchestral percussion with like youth orchestras, and we went on lots of tours as a teen. And I also played in all kinds of bands. I played jazz with my dad. My dad's at the time semi-pro jazz player, so he had about 3 or 4 weekly residencies. And
sick!
I'd kind of graduated to be his drummer by the age of about 14. So I was out gigging probably about 4 or 5 nights a week from the age of about 14 all the way through to leaving home. So I just loved it. And every time I did a gig... That's
a hell of a paper round. Like, I'm just drumming for my dad. What the fuck? That's awesome.
I loved it. I'd get paid. I never really was the most technical musician. Like, I never wanted to sit and do the rudiments and the practice. But I just did my practice on stage. Like, just get out there and do it and get the passion.
That's the best experience, right? Is to just actually fucking do it and then learn. Because I guess there's one thing actually, to be fair, learning things in the studio or in the rehearsal room and then letting go on stage is part of the artistry. But also learning when you've got an audience there is a whole other ballgame. This is a different dynamic of feedback and on all those things.
That's it. And it's a thrill. And why why should learning have to be like boring? It should be thrilling. Like, I mean, obviously you've got to put in the graft, and there's a lot of hours of graft that go into being able to achieve those thrills. But like, yeah, I really try and encourage people to learn in a practical way. The theoretical learning is much harder than if you've just got a clear goal. I want
Yeah.
to achieve X. I want to be able to play on this stage, or I want to be able to play with this person or play in that style. Go and do it. Go
And so the beatboxing happened after you did that, and then how did it end up that you were on stage at what was the night? Shit, I wanted to say
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu. Yeah, it was Kung Fu with Task Force and everyone. Thank you, Vicky, for my haircut comments. Yes, thank you everyone for noticing the haircut. So in the chats, thank you. But yeah, exactly. How did you go from doing that beatboxing to be like to keep the noise down for your parents to being on stage with Foreign Beggars?
Well, I guess that I first heard beatboxing, around that same kind of age when I was getting heavily into jazz. So someone played me a tape of someone beatboxing, and I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. I kind of already do that as a way to practice my drums, but I didn't know it was a thing that other people did. And I started like this tape. I realized afterwards it was Razel, who is an American beatboxer who really inspired my entire generation. But what the tape was, right? He was this guy who was on stage. He was, proper like hip hop gig, had a mic, big sound system, everyone going crazy. He did the beat, and then he did the same beat in reverse. And I was like, A, that is dope, but B, listen to that crowd. They are going crazy, and they're going crazy very specifically for him. He's not just a drummer in the band. He's not just like part of something. He is something. And I was like, that is my new fantasy, is to be able to get up on stage and just command a room with my voice and just send them somewhere. And I want that applause. I want that feeling. So I used to spend my evenings just doing these pretend shows in my kitchen. I remember really clearly, literally the whole routine, including with the bit where the crowd went crazy. I'd act it all out, like when I thought no one was watching, and just living a fantasy.
What was his sort of subtitle? Was the Godfather of Sound or Godfather of Noise? I forgot what his noise. Godfather of Noise. Yeah. Razel was like, I only discovered Razel through like Ronnie Size randomly, like years later, which is like through that whole fucking thing. It was bizarre. Razel appeared on Represent's second album, and I was just like, that's a whole weird introduction considering, there's that. Oh, Anita Rani's in the house. Big up Anita Rani. We bloody love you, Shlomo. It's without a C, darling. It's not a Shlomo. It's Shlomo.
Don't worry. I've given up on people trying to spell or pronounce my name. It used to really bug me, but I think as I'm mellowing in my now I'm an old creative, I don't need to worry about these things anymore.
All of us elderly creatives have to stick together. Which is right. Anita's talking about the vocal orchestra, which we'll come back to in a bit. Because there's a whole thing. Anita, we're talking about him. The first time I saw Shlomo was with the Foreign Beggars on their first ever gig at the Underworld in Camden at Kung Fu. So we were talking about so it was Razel, and then how
Razel,
did you to that show?
Then I was like obsessed with beatboxing and like really I had this vision to rock a crowd, and I told my older brother about it, and he was like, no, he'd been to America, he'd been to Philadelphia, and he'd seen the Roots. And he'd seen Razel and he'd seen Scratch, and he was like, "Bro, it's been done." He was just like, "Think of something else." And I was like, "No, it hasn't been done like how I want to do it." And I just carried on practicing, and I entered a competition that was the first ever beatboxing, first proper kind of championship in the UK. It was called King of the Jam, and the winner would win a pot of jam. And I'm talking like bon maman, like the good stuff.
Are you taking the piss?
I'm not even joking. The winner got a jar of jam. And I won the jam, and I was like, maybe this is good, maybe this is in the right direction. And
I'm sorry, I just want to say that's the most white middle class hip hop thing I've ever heard in my life. It's like I entered the jam and I won a pot of Bon Maman jam. I'm like, what the fuck? There was a term like backpacker hip hop, right? Which is just like sums it up right there.
Yeah, Bon Maman hip hop.
I'm sorry, man. That's just that's awesome.
Waitrose hip hop. That's the thing. But yeah, that encouraged me, and then I left home and I went up to Leeds.
That's a good point. Sorry, Pretty in the comments is saying what flavor?
Raspberry, of course.
A cha. You're a raspberry guy, not a strawberry guy. Big up Nikhil Shah, ex-Mixcloud fam.
Yes, Nikhil, how are you? Good to have you on board, man. You get royalty in your chat. I like it.
We just get fam, bruv. You know, all us brown people know each other. That's what happens, man.
I wish the Jews were like that. We were a bit more disparate, but
that's because you're way more successful, you bastards. Come on. But yeah, so the Bon Maman Jam thing, you won that, and then
won the King of the Jam, and then left home and up to Leeds. And within the first few weeks, I started going to these huge raves, drum and bass raves, and this is a real key turning point in my entire life. I went to a rave. First time I'd ever indulged in things which help you stay awake and dance late. Although, and you warned me not to talk about these things. I'm not going to.
Well, like Coca-Cola, yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Kind of. Energy drinks,
yeah. And push-ups and carrots.
Yeah,
and,
had a great time. And the night finished after hours and hours, and of this raving. And there was the lineup was insane. It was all the big, huge names, DJ Hype and Andy C and Lemon D and Dillinger and Mickey Finn and all these people. And the MCs, there was 2 MCs that my friend had obsessed about and told me about, one called Skibbity and one called Shabba. But there was this other MC that no one had ever heard of before, and he was taking the place by storm. He was this short guy with an incredible power and voice, and his name was Drop, MC Drop, and everyone was like, who is this guy? Who is this guy?
I remember Drop. I forgot about Drop MC. I totally forgot about Drop, bro.
Drop. Had so much
I forgot
power.
about Drop. That's so funny. Oh my God. Yes.
Drop's brother just checked in. Hello,
I know.
Pravi.
Big up Prav. Big up Peng Shui. Big up Izuru. Big up everyone in the house. Excellent. I told you all the Brown fam come here, bro. You know what I mean?
So Drop blew the whole.
I just want to clarify. Actually, you can continue the story. Yes, God, that's wicked. I forgot about Drop. I've got CDs with Drop written on it. That's so funny.
MC Drop. Okay, so he was like sparring with Shabba and Skibbity and just showing them up. Frankly,
and I just want to say, Shabba and Skibbity were the fucking like dons of MCing in jungle at that point. You couldn't fuck with you just couldn't fuck with them. But MC Drop
headline
did.
material.
Yeah.
And Drop did, and it was quite controversial. Anyway, so it gets to about 5 or 6 in the morning. And
sorry, I'm just still laughing. I forgot the name Drop. I'm still cracking up at the name Drop. But yeah, sorry, God.
So 5 or 6 in the morning, they closed the club, and I remember this so clearly. I wasn't ready for it to finish, and I ended up on the street. And I just closed my eyes, and I just started beatboxing as loud and as fast as I could, like all the drum and bass was still going through my head. After about probably about 15 minutes of this, I opened my eyes and I realized this like circle of people had formed around me, yeah, and they're all kind of like no one really heard of beatboxing at that point. They're just a bit like, this is sick, but I don't quite understand what it is. Anyway,
right, yeah, bruv, where's the sub bass, bruv? What's going on?
Where are the speakers? Like, yeah. So then, stage door opens and out come all of my heroes, all of the drum and bass DJs from the rave come out, and they stop and they turn to look what all this commotion is about. And then they keep on walking, apart from one guy, the last guy, who comes and stands right next to me, yeah? He listens to me beatboxing for 2 or 3 minutes, and then he starts rapping drum and bass MC style, and I realize it's bloody MC Drop from the rave, right? Anyway, after about 2 or 3 minutes, yeah, he turns to me, he stops me, and he said, "Bruv, you're sick at beatboxing, but can you do anything a little bit slower?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Have you ever heard of hip hop?" I said, "Have I ever heard of hip hop?" So I start spitting hip hop beats, and it kind of bursts into a cipher, rap cipher. I don't know why this is, but if you ever start beatboxing or rapping outside a nightclub, just these rappers just come out of space and just start joining in. Anyway, so this goes on for a long time, and there's an after party, and there's an after party, and it goes well into the next day. And this guy, Drop, he says, "I need to take your number because I'm also a hip hop rapper, and we've got this group called Foreign Beggars. We're going to be doing our first show in a few weeks, and I need you to come to London and perform with us." And I was like, what, Foreign Beggars? He says, yeah, my name's Orifice Volgatron. I remember trying to tell this name to my friend who I was in the hip hop crew with up in Leeds. I was like, no, it's Orifice Volgatron. And he was like, what? And that was it. That was history. So I went and did the gig, and that was the gig where I met you. And that was the beginning.
And that was it. And also, so Orifice MC Drop, aka Orifice Volgatron, is Pavan from Foreign Beggars, aka Pavan, this blue dude here. So this blue dude is who we're talking about.
Yeah, that's it. That's
the new incarnation. I forgot about the drop thing, bruv. That's so fucking jokes. Big up Selena, big up Izaru in the chats. Excellent. That's so funny. Because I think that sort of, it kind of typifies the honesty of the Foreign Beggars whole scene, and the music they put out was like literally, you're sick, come over here. You're sick, come over here. Like,
dude, honestly, it was so inspiring because I was still so fresh-faced. I remember going around London with Pav, and we had to deliver some records off to this shop and some flyers off that shop. And on the way, we met so many people. He even took the number of, he tried to take the number of of a homeless dude who was just busking in the street, and he was sick. And he was like, "You're sick, you're sick." And the guy was like, "I haven't got a phone." He was like, "I need to get in touch with you." And he had this black book. He just took everything as an opportunity. He took everything as a way to hustle and create and bring, like, create his community. And I was so inspired. Like, he must have been about 23, 24. He was only, to me, like, he was only a few years older than me, but at the age of 19, that felt like a real grown-up.
But also, that's the thing, I guess, sort of charting a course into new territory, it's really difficult unless, like, there's someone else doing this kind of weird path-finding mission, because it can be a shit show,
Yeah,
as well.
totally.
But, bruv, I need a piss, so I'm going to take you into loo and close my mic and sit down and wee. Hang on. I'm going to do this.
Are you sure? Maybe you should just leave it here and I'll talk to the crowd.
Oh, maybe, actually. Yeah, we can do that.
Weird.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, it's true. That's true. We're close, but we're not that close. That is true. So, yeah, I'll leave you here, and I'll go to wee and come back. So if there's any questions, stick them in the chats.
Yeah, how are we doing? Who's even here? Give me some emojis if you're still here, because I feel like it says that people join.
They did join.
But it doesn't necessarily say if you're still
when
there.
They've left. Well, look, if they've gone, then I will leave you.
Hey, Warped Spaces, how you doing? Hello to Bespoke Bet and Poppy P95 and Andy Candelicious. This is fun. I'm now in charge of Nerm's live stream. I'm in charge of Nerm's Instagram live. I'm quite glad to be in charge, because if I didn't volunteer to do that, we'd now be witnessing Nerm urinate, which I frankly am okay without. Like, do you know what I mean? Love the guy, but there's just certain boundaries that don't need to be crossed, lockdown or not. So yes, hello, Warp Space is good. I'm okay. Good to see it. It's how do I say your name? Izura Persona. Hello, hello, hello. Nice to see you. I'm SK Shlomo, so I'm a beatboxer and a live looper. It's happened before. He's taken people into the bathroom with him before. Does this man have no shame and boundaries? I don't know. But for me, that's something that's kind of like, I do lots of live streaming, but I have like a holding card. So I can say, be right back, and I can go and escape and, take care of my needs before I come back and join back with the community. But yeah, you guys have witnessed this trauma before, I can tell. So do you guys regularly tune into Nerm's chats? I've really enjoyed the ones I've tuned into. Really cool. I really enjoyed one with High Contrast. That was such an eye-opener. Massive fan of High Contrast. Everyone's telling me that you regularly...
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a fan jump thing, but I don't sort of stand and wee, because you don't want to flip the camera. I sort of sit down and wee and keep it, wholesome. Cool. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Wholesome. Keep it wholesome, indeed. But the other thing is that, so from that gig, there's a bit of a gulf, because the next time I saw you was at Glastonbury, after but you then exploded. And this is the thing that shocks me, because there was this kind of format for hip hop shows, which was like MCs and DJs, and then a beatboxer interlude, almost like it was kind of like a sort of midpoint thing. And then And I noticed this
Halftime
in
show.
exactly. And then when oh, big up Nitin's already in the house. Yes, there you go.
Yes, Nitin.
All the brand mafia coming through. But you know, it became a point where beatboxers, I guess, in the midpoint of a hip hop show, became like the point where everyone went for a fag break or a cigarette break. So just to clarify for our US audience, fags over here are not. I mean, yes, it is a slur for homosexuals, but fags are also cigarettes over here, and it's a widely accepted vernacular. So that's what I meant by fag break. But yeah, it was like a point where everyone can go out for a cigarette in the show. Like essentially, like you said, like a halftime show. But you managed to take that novelty thing and turn it into a whole show, which I find fascinating because you kind of exploded before any other beatboxer did back in that period.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess like I kind of I was kind of obsessed because like I actually got into hip hop through the beatboxing and through joining Foreign Beggars. Like I'd listened to some American hip hop before that.
Oh, sorry,
And then,
Nali's here. I'm going to big up Nali. She's amazing as well.
hey
Sorry.
Nali,
Didn't mean to cut you off. I'll just like big up the fam in the house. Yeah.
yeah, how you doing, Nali? Nice to see you. Yeah, I lost my thought trail. Yeah, I got into hip hop out of the beatboxing, which kind of meant I didn't have any loyalty to it in a way. Like I loved it, and I definitely did a lot of hip hop music, but I didn't feel like I had to. So I was really happy to bring in like all my other influences. So growing up as a jazz drummer and a classical percussionist, and then getting heavily into like drum and bass and house and rave music. So I just dropped all of that, and I don't think anyone else was really doing that at the time. Yeah. And then the second thing that happened to me was when I got a phone call from Bjork, who really isn't hip hop, but in a way definitely is. Like in the way that she's just straight up baller. Like she just does whatever she wants. And she invited me to record on her album.
Sick. Which album was that?
She did an album called Medulla, which was
All Voices, that one.
Pure Voices, yeah. And that, again, Razel had done most of the beats for the album. And she had one track that she hadn't, she wasn't going to have it on the album, right? She'd written it as a commission for the opening ceremony of the Athens Olympics. And
I've got to say, if you're going to do any Olympics, I mean, the Athens Olympics is the one to do, you know.
Yeah, right. I mean, out of all the Olympics, I'm sure that was a vintage. But what happened there was two things. So getting to record with Bjork really propelled me onto like an international stage, and my phone started ringing a lot, and I started getting a lot of bookings outside of Foreign Beggars. But the thing that really changed was my mindset, because up until then I'd really only ever seen it as a trick, as a way to impress people and, you know, get free chips late at night in a chippy, or you know, I was just having fun. I didn't really think of it as like my honest kind of self-expression or my true voice. And then, but she really, really did. She got me to compose. She treated me as a composer and a collaborator and a creative, and she respected the art form more than I did. And I was like, no, I need to up my game. So at that point, I decided I was going to be an artist just like her. I was going to make music and not just make tricks. And I think those two things, I started live looping. I started just trying to push myself as hard as I could and push the art form as hard as I could.
That's fucking fascinating. I think when you're on the fringe of everything, you don't have to live or die by any one scene, right? You can do whatever the fuck you want to.
Yeah.
Which is, I never knew the Bjork thing, actually. That's hilarious.
But I kind of think the Foreign Beggars thing that's why Beggars were, and always throughout their whole time were so successful, is that it was very, very much a hip hop kind of starting point, but it was not at all limited to that in any way. There was so many other influences with the drum and bass and the dubstep and the energy. Like there was metal in there. There was just everything in there. It wasn't like, no, this is our sound and we stick to it. It was like, no, we're just doing music. We're just bringing people together.
Well, I think the interesting thing was that they kind of introduced and rode maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4 waves of new genres and stayed relevant, which is insanely difficult to do. Like, but just through sheer honesty, they were just always, they happened to be like 2, 3 steps ahead. So the sheer fact that, the first Skrillex EP, the first time I played Skrillex on Radio 1 was because of Pavan, right? Because they was like, oh, here's some shit you got to play. I was like, all right, wicked. And they were on the first EP, and then years later, it's like, what? Not that I appreciate the music now, but back then it's still like waves of change, you know? And it's like their collaboration with Noisier. Yeah. It's amazing how ahead of the curve they constantly were.
Yeah, and I think that's the same thing of not being restricted by like a genre or like or something that you think you know. I think a lot of people kind of say I'm in this thing and I am this thing and I identify as this thing, and then they become very rigid. And I've done that too. Like I've really struggled when I've wanted to break out of molds that I've kind of created for myself. And now I look back on it and I'm like, actually, no one actually cares what your label is. They just want you to be real.
Well, I'm not so sure, because I think at the time when we were all just starting out, those labels meant a lot, and the collapse of genres happened afterwards.
Maybe you're right. Yeah. Maybe you're right, but I don't. I mean, I definitely loved hip hop and became very like immersed in UK hip hop, but I didn't think it defined me, and I didn't even think it defined Foreign Beggars, even though we definitely were a UK hip hop group. But there was so much more to it than that. I don't know.
Well,
it's almost a cliche to say fuck the labels.
But it is. But it's also quite interesting that without like so. You know, I call it the death of silos is how I describe it, because they're like genre silos, right? And there was drum and bass over here, and there was, you know, all of the underground subgenres that were trying to make drum and bass that couldn't, by their own admission. So starting from speed garage to UK garage to dubstep, everyone wanted to make D&B but couldn't, and made their own genres essentially. And every producer will admit to that. It's not like a cuss or anything. It's just it's hard to make. And I think that Nitin's got a good point. Labels are for the convenience of journalists and not artists. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But equally, once the artists start benefiting, you're stuck in that silo. Like I represent this, and I represent, you know, I am a drum and bass DJ. And then if you suddenly if Andy C started playing a dubstep set, all hell would break loose. But there are certain artists within RAM that could do transitional tracks, which totally excited me back then. So what you're saying about labels not being that much of a barrier, I think you're selling yourself short. I think that your work in transitioning between them is pretty fucking important too.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope you're right, man. Just, I don't know. I think there was like a real exciting energy around the time we're talking about here. So it's like between like 2004 to sort of 2011. It was like a real 6-7 years of just like I was traveling all around the world, half the time with Beggars, half the time like gradually building up my own kind of name. And then I got another huge break, which was I got scouted to go into later with Jules Holland, which if you're not from the UK is a national, it's the biggest kind of national TV music show, and artists who go on there either are already huge, and if they're not already huge, they're really about to be, and I couldn't believe it had happened. Someone had pulled out and I got this like last minute opportunity to be there.
Sick.
And yeah, after that things just went mad, like just I couldn't keep up with it. I couldn't keep up with it. I didn't keep up with it.
I mean that sort of dovetails into what I was going to move about next, is because like I think you blew up as a solo artist before Foreign Beggars did, in all honesty. And so
Beggars were very big on the underground. They had a huge following on the underground.
Sure, but then like I vividly remember this one. And okay, so my Glastonbury memories are a shit show anyway, because I'm a fucking mess at the best of times. But I distinctly remember walking through a pathway behind the pyramid stage, and sorry, I'm going to just interject this story. Nitin said love later. Nitin, Sony, and Jules Holland are really good friends, and I constantly take the piss out of how they want to touch each other with their piano fingers when they're dueling on pianos. So, Nitin, if you're going to love later, don't share it in the comments, bro. Keep that shit to yourself, yeah? Do you know what I mean? Like, your finger touching's like, this is a public forum, brother. Anyway, sorry, quick interjection there. So yeah, walking, I just remember distinctly this path from the pyramid stage and the other stage in Glastonbury. and I think I was with like No Names or maybe Ebo. Rest in peace, Ebo. Big up, Ebo. And then we bumped into you coming that way with your parents, and it was bizarre because I was talking, so I came up to you and spoke some shit, and you were like, "No, meet my mom."
Are you sure that was Glastonbury?
I swear it was Glastonbury.
Oh no, yeah. My mom.
I swear it was your mom. It was like I came up to you and spoke some proper shit. Like I was talking complete shit to you, and you were like, "Thanks, Nerm. This is my mom," and I was like, "Fuck."
My mom's seen everything. I think at the time she was managing me. That's why she was there. She's pretty unshockable. Don't worry.
Also, Nitin just said, "I prefer you, Nerm. I prefer you too, darling." There you go. So
what about Jules? What if the words gets out to Jules,
mate,
man?
Once you go brand, there ain't no turning around. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. So anyway, right. Quick thing is that I feel that your career in terms of that, yes, Foreign Beggars were big, but you suddenly broke through in a whole other way, and you say it was because of Bjork and whatever else. And then dealing with that whole attention can be quite difficult.
Yeah,
as you were alluding to. So
I just didn't deal with it. I just kept not dealing with whatever pain I was struggling with. Another really huge break that happened around that same time was with Glastonbury. So to play on a main stage at Glastonbury, you have to have sold a lot of records. And had a lot of radio play and be a big name, and I hadn't released a single track, but I'd somehow managed to sort of sidestep being a recording artist and just jump straight into the big stages. And
but that's because in terms of sorry, just to cut you off because you know more than I do, but let me mansplain this shit to you. Is that you directly cut to being really good with live audiences. And this is pre-mobile phones recording shit. So, of course, it makes fucking sense. Like, as a booker, I'd be like, yeah, motherfucker can hold down live audiences. Let's get him on.
Yeah, I guess that's it. But
and also, big up Nick Hawks, big up Silence in the house. Yes. There you go.
Man, what's all the royalty come through on your stream, dude?
They come and go, man. They come in and just say, okay, shit is drunk off. But yes.
That's good enough. What were we saying, bro? Yeah, I think
so dealing with that whole sort of thing, you played a main stage at Glastonbury without any record sales.
Yeah. So I remember I went to Glastonbury for the first time 2005 with Beggars, and I remember I'd never seen the Pyramid stage before, and I saw it that night, and I was like, I swore I'd get up on that stage, and I gave myself 5 years to do it. That was in 2005, and 2008 I went on the Pyramid stage twice that weekend, and I was like, this is mad. This is beyond me. I'm not in control of this. I'm not in power of this. So it started to become this terrifying obsession because I felt like I'd sidestepped it. I felt like I don't know if I'm sure you're familiar with the term imposter syndrome. I wasn't familiar with that at the time. I just thought I was this great big awful fraud who'd managed to somehow trick the world into thinking he was valid. And every one of these huge, what should have been career-defining moments, or I don't know, those moments where you've had a big accolade. I broke a world record, or I became world looping champion. And each time I walked away from all of these, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm still not okay. So I'm going to have to do even more." And it just became more and more exhausting trying to outdo myself and keep proving myself, to the point of genuine collapse. I literally collapsed in exhaustion and had a full-on mental health breakdown. I couldn't go anymore. Couldn't keep going.
And there's no preparation for that expectation, I guess, and filling that void. But also, you seem pretty switched on. So in terms of, like you said, you weren't tied down to any scene. You're used to, and like Nitin says, you're amazing live and you have insane talent.
Thank you, bro.
Filling that void, you've done several gigs, but was there anything that could have prepared you better?
Hang on, say that question again. I was distracted by all the kind comments and
all the love and shit. And also I burped in the middle when I was talking, so it's probably just like that. Right. So, I mean, you know, that whole thing can be a lot, and putting yourself out there is very difficult. Getting to a certain degree of putting yourself out there on a bigger stage is obviously very difficult too. And then dealing with it is a different thing, like you just discussed. And is there anything you could have done in hindsight to prepare for it?
I think just like looking after myself better. I tell you what, this last year has been crazy because I've always been terrified about not being like, you know, that kind of expression, you're only as good as your last show. So I'd always be terrified about not having a big show on sale, and not having a big tour on sale, or not having the next big thing to do. And this year, I haven't toured for a whole year, just like everyone else. And surprise, surprise, I'm still here and I'm still alive. And that happened to me before in 2017, 2018. I came off the road because I wanted to make an album. And I would plan to come off the road for a short time to make the album, and then I planned to make the album, win some Grammys, go back out there, and it didn't pan out like that. It took me 2 years because of the mental health. Like I couldn't get up, and I could hardly leave my house for a lot of those 2 years. And this is kind of familiar, right? So now I'm off tour, but it's not my fault this time.
Yeah,
right?
it's involuntary. It's involuntary time out.
And it's mad because now I'm going back to it, and we're just now rebooking my tour that's been postponed 3 times it's now going to be October, November. But I have a completely different attitude, which is, okay, it might get postponed, but I love doing my live streams. I love doing my digital shows. So if it does get, put off again, I'm kind of okay with it, which means, right, this is big now, because it's like, I can do the shows because I want to.
Yeah.
And I can do the shows that I want to do, and
out of choice.
If they make money and if they make people happy, great. But I don't have to do it. I don't have to judge my self-worth based on how many. Like, if I've got a show at the Albert Hall on sale, then I'm valid. Like, I don't need to do that. I'm valid. So like, that's what I could have learned. That's what I could have told myself.
Sorry, bro. I just want to say you for me, you glitched out when you went and it just literally glitched out like it was a fucking an effect. Could you repeat that, please?
I said that I'm valid. Like,
yeah,
it's not having a big show at the Albert Hall that makes you valid. It's not having a big massive tour full of sold out dates that makes you valid. That makes you successful. But there's also another type of success where you enjoy your life and are able to be with yourself in the moment. So like, yeah, this last year has taught me that. And I think if I could have told kind of early 20s Shlo that, it's okay not to outdo yourself all the time. It's okay just to like drink the life you have in. He probably would have told old me to fuck off and stop being so old and boring.
Yeah, but shut up, mate. I want to make it bigger than you fucking prick. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but
that's it. I think that's the other thing is that I guess as you get older, and God, I sound like an old uncle now as well. I was going to say, you kind of realize that maybe the business aspect and the striving for certain goals isn't worth the trade-off, perhaps, for your own sort of joy.
Yeah, I think it's easy to say it, but if you can prioritize your own joy over everything else, and you find what's joyful, then everything else will follow. Like, you will get gigs if you do what you love. I promise you will get gigs.
Do you think the pathway? Oh, I mean, without talent, that won't happen. Or without grit and determination and being a bit of a prick, it won't happen either. Just to put an addendum in the middle of what you were saying, you got to be a bit of a prick to make it happen. That's just the way it works. But that's the thing, is that I think there's a certain amount of realization or distance that this whole situation has given us all to sort of analyze what we really want out of life. And for me, it's to get drunk with friends every week so that I can at least wash. And that has been beautiful, but also hearing insights and stories about how careers progressed has been fascinating. And what you did after all of that was sort of flip that into Calm, which is your charity, as far as I understand it.
Calm, it's not my charity. Calm is a a movement against suicide, an amazing charity that supports people who are, you know, highly at risk of ending their lives. So they have an amazing helpline. They have an amazing web chat line that support people. Because, you know, I haven't really touched on it in this chat just now, but I did get really, really sick. I did get like, you know, at risk of suicide. And I've done a TED talk about it. And I've released an album to raise mental health awareness so that other people hopefully can not feel alone if they're struggling too. But yeah, that charity Calm is incredible. So I've been doing some work to try and raise money for them. It's not my charity. I love them, and I've been working with them a lot. But I work with lots of charities. They're just one that really resonates.
So is it Calm, CALM is the
Yes,
site?
the Campaign Against Living Miserably. So they originally were a men's mental health charity because suicide is the biggest killer of men in the UK under the age of 45. But they've actually, I think, wisely kind of rebranded as just a suicide prevention charity, because it ain't no point being gendered about anything. There's no point. It's not just men who need help.
Yeah. What about this gender and so on? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, bullshit. Like, what is being a man? It's like almost that's half the problem. It's people feel they have to be a man. Fuck that. Be you. If you're
Mate,
a man,
see my
or
nails.
you're not a man. Exactly. You have beautiful nails.
I have fucking amazing nails.
You do have strong nails, and like that doesn't stop you deserving the exact same love and support as someone who doesn't have amazing nails.
Yeah, they need like a neighbor that can do their nails better. I can help that.
Did your neighbor do that?
Yeah,
Let me see them properly.
they're reflective, like mirrored. So if you've got like sort of like four little ants that really want to do a line, they could all do it off my nails. But yeah, sorry, I'm diverting from a very serious discussion. So please continue. Yes.
That's it, really. Just like, yeah, like my journey was never what I expected it to be. It was always a wild roller coaster, but I really wouldn't change any of it, even those really awful moments.
And you found the help, though, obviously, and you found a pathway through it.
Yeah, I got help, which I think is a terrifying step, but really, really empowering. And you know, I didn't get it right. I'm now on another therapist. I went back to therapy during lockdown, and I'm really glad I did. Yeah, I just think there's no room for stigmas here. There's no room for prejudgments or toxic masculinity or all the other bullshit that we've all contributed to as well. Like all the gender stereotyping, all of the, you know, low-level misogyny and high-level misogyny, especially in the hip-hop scene. There's no space for it. So we all need to own up and human up and just look after humans.
Human up. But
Yeah.
I think you drew a lot of attention to it. Did that take its toll on you as well? Was it like, it must have been hard to kind of essentially convert that into your art, or was it just a natural process for you? Because it seems to be like what you do.
I was in trouble, bro, because so the full story, I'd come off the road to make the album. I was determined to prove myself as a singer-songwriter, recording artist, having, you know, felt like I'd sidestepped the industry, you know, and played on the main stages at the festivals without ever releasing a record. So I was determined to release a record, and it had to be of the same standard of my other work. It had to be world-class, like award-winning, blah, 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 blah. So I had this huge pressure on myself. And that process of coming off the road, and I went and, you know, we were so used to being constantly on stage and constantly in a whirlwind of travel and fans and stuff, that I was just never used to just sitting with myself in a quiet room. And in the first 5 days, I wrote 5 sick tracks. And then on day 6, just felt like a massive crater had opened in the earth, and I was just falling into it. And that took me a long time to recover from. I got really, really sick with my mental health, started to get help, and then I started using the music as the therapy. So I started writing all of this trauma that I'd never really dealt with before into song. So I was in real trouble because I'd saved myself through the album. I'd written the album.
And
But
then fucked yourself through it as well.
how on earth was I going to put this out without having, like, no one knew I'd been struggling.
Yeah.
Not even my family knew that I'd been getting help. I still felt a real stigma. I still felt that if I come out and say I have depression or I have anxiety or I have suicidal streaks, I thought I would lose everything. I thought no one would ever book me. I'd lose all my teaching work. I'd lose all my corporate work. I'd lose everything. And I thought I am now completely screwed because I can't release this record and I can't. There's no way. There's no way forward.
Yeah.
So I either had to bin the whole thing or just own it and just start talking about it. And I was like, do you know what? I've been through so much pain here. I think I could use this as a way to help other people. And that was my way out of the kind of spiral of doom. I was like, maybe there's a way I can help other people. So I thought if I talk about it and I use my platform to raise mental health awareness and reduce that stigma, then it would work. It really didn't. I started speaking about it and I hemorrhaged followers in the thousands. That it's taken me till now. I did that in 2018. I first opened up about mental health and I put a post up celebrating this about a month ago. I'm now back to the numbers I was on in 2018. To be 4, was that 18, 19, 20, 21, 4 years to regain the followers I lost. I mean, I don't want those followers who are going to unfollow someone for being real, but
I mean,
it was a hemorrhage. It was a hemorrhage.
But I think it typifies the metric of social media followers, and those metrics inherently aren't designed for that kind of
For mental
validation.
health.
Yeah, they're not. Of course they're not. Of course they're not.
Judging yourself by likes and follows,
exactly,
it's just
exactly,
danger.
100%. And in some ways, I was like, that transition between sort of traditional media and online media is fascinating, because on traditional media you don't see the metrics at all. It's like you do your shit, you get your TV show, you do your shit or your radio show, whatever, and you're fucking rolling. With this, it's like a more immediate rabbit punch to your fucking gut, and then suddenly your art adjusts to what that metric requires rather than the audience. So you're 100% right to fucking deal with it, And also, I mean, like, I've got to be honest with you, bruv. Like, I think that, there was a part of me that was like, your trajectory has been quite well planned. But I realize actually it's way more reactive to the environments around you, which is true art.
So tell me what you mean by, like, the planned trajectory.
Okay, so, like, we know the Beggars, for example, we know all of these crew, but you were the first person to blow up. Like, you were the first person to blow up big from our whole crew, right? I don't mean scenes and hip hop and drum and bass, whatever. Like, Shlomo was the name. It was like mainstay. It was like, yo, motherfucker saw it, went for it, right? Me, Foreign Beggars, fucking engineers, whatever else. We were all like, whatever. Before we got into Radio 1 and whatever, like, Shlomo did it. Path to the top. Like, bruv knew it. And even then, from then onwards, it's like, right, there's the vocal orchestra. There's like, you knew a pathway. You saw where you wanted to be. And you've admitted as much. You're like, I want to be there, so I'll be there. Yeah. And it's fascinating to hear the flip side of that tale.
Yeah, like the doubt. The
yeah, but the doubt and pain, I think, as an artist, as Nitin said, is like before, there's so much doubt and pain in every art, in every artist's heart. Like, without the doubt and pain, you're not really an artist. You know what I mean? You need the doubt and pain to.
I don't think you'd make anything, would you? You'd be happy. So you why would I do this?
You'd make ad campaigns for the Tory party.
Oh fuck,
dude. Yeah. So I mean, I'm just saying. Not that I thought you would do that. I'm just saying that I guess it's a testament to the sort of projection of one's career, that it's all you project the good things and you don't talk about the bad.
Right, there you go. That's it.
Yeah. And when you do talk about the bad, you, like you said, you shed followers because, and I'm wondering whether that's because of reality or because their escape lies in you. I've been debating that a lot.
They want you to be X and they don't want you to be Y. And
or they come to you for escape, perhaps.
Yeah.
And like Nitin in the comments is correct. Nitin I just want to big you up again. Shlo has so much energy to help others. Absolute hero. Absolute fucking hero. Nitin, you can swear on my chats, bruv. You don't just star it out. Fuck it. But yeah, big hero.
I love how all the royalty come through, but you just school them. You just, you
Nah,
just
man. Anyway,
school them.
let's just see what happens. See what happens with this one. But on the real,
Yeah.
it's really fascinating for me to see that insight. Um,
Mm. I think
from you, and
it's
I think it's fascinating for everyone else to see it as well.
I think it's fascinating for me because I think you've articulated something there that I've never really quite put my finger on, which is, yeah, like the unfollow. I think it's different now. I think people are much more used to hearing people be a bit more real on social media, especially if you go on newer platforms like TikTok or Clubhouse, where people are just a lot more real. Oh, wow, Nitin's now gone in.
Wait, what was that? Wait, hang on a second. What was that? Hang on. Wait.
I like the last two words. They're
I
my
know. I
favorite.
just saw that. Yeah. Hang on a second. I'm gonna try this again because I was trying to. Wait. Hang on. Wait. Is this gonna work?
What are you
It
trying
was
to do?
a little thing. Let's see if this works. But keep talking
Okay.
because when this is uploaded on YouTube or whatever, no one will see all the
Uh,
comments. So
oh,
yes.
are you
Yeah.
screenshotting Nitin Sawhney being
No, I'm
very
trying to
rude?
invite him into this chat, but it's just like he's
Oh, because you can
declining.
have. I think. Oh, he's just like no. He's too busy going fuck, shit, bollocks, cunt balls.
Exactly. Oh, he's just watching today. There you go. I don't know. Yeah, I was wondering what the swearing was about, so I thought I'd re-invite him just for the shit, like shits and giggles. But yeah, and also I need to pee again. So, any questions for Shlomo? Put them in the
Fire away.
comments. I need to pee. Nitin, have you got a question for Shlomo, bruv? Because that's actually why I was inviting you, so I can go wee. So, are there any
He wanted you
questions?
to be. He wanted you to be the sort of co-host, Nitin. He doesn't want to hear you swear. He just wants you to cover for him.
So, bruv, like, if Nitin was in charge of online policy for the state of Israel, he could be called Nitin Yahoo.
Hey. While you're gone, I'm going to tell Nitin a story
Okay, cool.
about how, or tell everyone a story about Nitin.
All right, cool.
About when I first met you, when I first met Nitin. It was at an Africa Express gig, which is Africa Express is a project put together by Damon Albarn off of Gorillaz and Blur, where he'd get loads and loads of artists from around the world, lots of African artists and Western artists, to all collaborate in one big jam. And I met Nitin Sawhney. Actually, no, I think we might have met at another thing, Nitin. I think we might have met at a charity gig in an Oxfam shop. But anyway, there was an Africa Express gig, and I went up to Nitin and I was like, dude, do you want to do a jam? And he said, yeah, I'm doing this piece, which is all, what do you call it? Is it doll? Is it the sort of counting tabla rhythms with your voice? And he taught me this piece, extremely complex piece of music. He gave me about 2 minutes to learn it. Very, very numerical, very, very complex. And I was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, we're going to go and do it on stage in about 5 minutes. And I was like, okay. And somehow flew by the seat of my pants and got away with it. But that really opened me up into a whole world. Yeah, bowls, that's right, bowls. That really opened me up into wanting to learn way more about like Indian vocal percussion, and that really ended up doing a big project at South Bank with Gauri Sharma Tripathi. He's a Kathak artist, and I learned way more about it. But that then really influenced my beatboxing, like learning a kind of much older tradition of vocal music. Rather than the kind of more recent hip hop tradition, which only started, in the 1980s. Like, traditional Indian vocal percussion is centuries and centuries and centuries old. So thank you very much for that little emergency schooling you gave me. It really helped me in my mission to just become a really rounded musician. Also big up to you, Nitin. Thanks very much for being part of our charity live stream that we did on New Year's Eve. You smashed that show. Absolutely smashed it. And also congratulations on all of your your success and your new album and the Albert Hall stuff you're doing. It's amazing. It's incredible. So I'm going to keep on filling Wow, Nerm is
I'm back,
urinating.
motherfucker.
Oh, he's back. He's back. He's back.
I'm back.
It does say somewhere in your bio that you have a weak bladder.
I have
Didn't realize. I thought that was just a joke.
I put that up because legit, I have a tiny bladder. It's
Is it tiny or is it weak or is it both?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's tiny and weak.
Don't judge a man by the strength of his bladder.
His bladder. But yeah, I'm glad that you found the help you needed to get through all that shit, bro. And
Thank you.
I think it's got to be difficult for a lot of new artists. Like, honestly, I was thinking about this with looking at Pavan's solo project, for example. Like, plug right by here. So, like, any new artist right now is probably spending a lot of money on, like, Instagram ads or Facebook ads to get, like, Spotify plays, which doesn't pay anything. Like, they're fucked. They're inherently fucked. You're spending money to get the kind of imprints and stats that you need to progress in this industry. And I think that is like it's kind of like two self-contained economies that are going to fuck you. And and I think a lot of artists are going to end up in a similar situation to utilize the advice you have.
I think you're right, man. Like, I really wanted to do that, to be a recording artist and to have hits and, be like people like Nitin and Bjork and these artists you see who have like...
Also, I just want to say Nitin isn't Bjork.
He has a lot in common with her in that he does what he wants to do musically, but still has a lot of people love those recordings. And I'd never had that. My fantasy was that I'd go back to gigging, but someone would come, at least one person would come, and do that thing where it's like, oh, he's going to play that song I love, and I'm going to sing along all the words.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I've never done that.
Yeah. Sure. By the way, Nitin just said, I am Bjork. Fuck you, bruv. You're not Bjork. Kidding me.
So much aggression, man. Oh, my days.
Mate, it's what happens with family, man. It's just like, mate, fuck off. It's fine. But yeah, sorry. Please continue, brother. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I was really obsessed with making it, like you say, Spotify and this and that. And then I managed to do it. I managed to get that album out. It did get the Radio 1 support. It did get the acclaim, but it didn't feel like I was hoping it would feel. It didn't solve all my...
It's hollow as fuck.
All my fears.
Yeah. Totally.
And then in the end, what actually sort of brought me back to full circle of being... Like, I'd almost rejected the concept of being a beatboxer, and I'd been like, no, I'm a live looper, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do those things until I've proven I can do this other thing. I've proven myself as a recording artist. But
Bruv, what was your family reaction to all the success? Was there any familial validation you were seeking as well?
That's a very, very personal.
We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to talk about it.
It's a very good question, because I think we all struggle. Like, if we have inner critics, that quite often,
or in your family perhaps as well,
absorbed a family voice of criticism, because not all of us are given the encouragement we deserve. That's all I really want to say about it. That's what I really want to say about
that.
But
sure. We can leave that. Sorry, I didn't mean to touch a nerve, bro. I was just like,
no, not at all. Just like, I just want to encourage other people to recognize that if you do hear yourself criticizing yourself or criticizing your work or speaking to yourself in an unkind way, just question yourself, am I speaking from the generation above in a way that doesn't serve me? And would I speak to my children like that?
Or even the same generation sometimes.
Or yeah, especially siblings. But I had a big brother.
I mean, yes. I'm not going to talk about that now. But yes, equally, there is that whole, there's a weird, so I raised that because I think that's an important factor. So I didn't mean to get personal. I apologize about that. But I think that there's this constant idea of of parental paradigms affecting your art and what your expectations are. But that you're right, there's also sibling expectations
and rivalries
which can be magnifications or concentrations of parental ideals in different ways. It's such a strange thing to navigate. But equally, like navigating that, you're correct, is that if it's true, and in fact, let me validate what you've just said. If it's true and it feels right, that's great. And also, second guessing where the naysayers are coming from is very, very important.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
100%. Or the naysayers in your own head, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the self-talk I had. I mean, I still do struggle, but in my darkest times, I was talking to myself. My self-talk was just full on abusive. Like in the way if you spoke to me like that, I just would never speak to you again, or
Dude, I
probably
do.
get violent.
I do. That's exactly how I talk to everybody, is the same fuck you bastard that's my own inner voice.
Yeah, but no. You do it in a loving way. What I'm talking about is pure bile, pure hate, and I never really acknowledged it. I never really listened to it. No, I mean I did listen to it, but I absorbed it. I believed it. I thought that was me. And it's a big step to just observe that and think, okay, I don't have to speak to myself in this way anymore.
Yeah. I think there's a fascinating point in my early 20s where things went down like a couple of dark dead ends and rabbit holes where there were certain voices saying very negative things. And I think that those voices still linger, in all honesty,
Mm,
for me.
mm,
Like the conversation about sort of destruction or ending a certain path or your own validity are perennial. They're always fucking there.
yeah, it
Um,
hurts, man. It
and
hurts.
yeah, it's a weird one because I think that for me personally, I'm not saying this for anyone else, but for me personally, there was this ideal as a child that had to be made, like sort of lived up to, or some sort of an ideal that was gone against, and that self doubt crept in. And I felt that my solution was to just hug those demons and to be friends with those demons and to sort of say, fuck you, I am that demon. And it's
Yeah,
incredibly self destructive and incredibly fucking, yeah, it'll end in turmoil anyway. But, and I don't suggest this for anyone else, but I'm just talking to you now, Shlomo,
yeah,
not anyone else. So just, yeah, was that it was, I guess there were different paths to find peace,
mm,
was my point.
mm. Yeah, yeah. You can befriend your demons. You can become your demons. But what you can't ever really do is win the battle against them. Like it isn't the more arms you bring to that war, the more bloodshed there'll be. Like it,
Yeah, it's the
it,
escalation.
escalation. It's going to get nuclear pretty quickly. So yeah,
Yeah,
learning to make peace of that shit is hard. And
mutually assured destruction.
yeah, right, exactly, mad. Um, but yeah, I mean, I behaved in ways that I am really not proud of when I was kind of a slave to those demons, um, and in really destructive ways. And I kind of, yeah, I've just decided I don't want to do that. I don't want
Yeah,
to be that guy.
that's awesome.
So yeah, that's where it
I'm
leaves you.
sorry if this is so heavy for you, brother. I apologize. I was just like,
No, man. I am one thing I'm really practiced at now is knowing exactly where my boundaries are, like in terms of what I'm comfortable to talk about.
mm,
Like having been through that, where I did start talking about my mental health in public, whilst I was still vulnerable, and I got really badly trolled. This is what my TED talk talks about.
mm.
So I did a TED talk called "Social Media Saved Me from Suicide," which sounds like a clickbait title, but
It does. It really does. But that's a wicked clickbait title, though.
yeah, I mean, it's it's a real, it's a serious matter. But like,
Yeah,
I kind of came out about my mental health, and then got really bruised by a troll who told me that basically that I should be ashamed and that I'd stooped so low and that depression and suicide are evolution's way of weeding out inadequate men who aren't fit to reproduce, and that I should just go off and die. And I really bought that.
wow, fuck.
I was waiting for someone to say something like that so I could have an excuse to
To do
quietly
it.
disappear. Yeah. And, you know, I kind of go into this in that talk, but because I had been vulnerable online when I first opened up about it, there was now a culture surrounding the people who had still followed, you know, carried on following me, that they looked out for me, and people still do now. I get check-ins, messages, private messages every day from people all around the world, people I do know, people who I don't know, just saying, "Hey man, I know things are hard. How are you?" And that really means a lot to me. But that happened just at that moment where I was at such a high risk point, and that saved my life. Because I was able to be open and say, you know, just share what I was going through. But one thing I then learned is, like finding your own boundaries. Like if you are going to talk about things that make you vulnerable, you've got to be in the safe enough space to do that. Like I'm very comfortable talking to you about this difficult stuff, but if there's something I'm not comfortable with, I'm really okay with saying, no, let's not go there. Like that is another form of that's another thing I learned in therapy, put it that way.
See, I still have a big issue about talking about things. It may not seem it, but I have a big issue about talking about certain things very publicly, for not fear of ridicule, but for fear of vulnerability to then be taken advantage of. And I think a lot of that is down to perhaps coming from a background that wasn't particularly well off. So there's a defensiveness about communication, which I'm sure you can attest to. There's this kind of this South Asian idea of nazar, which is that if you project something positive or I have achieved something, the ill will of everyone else will bring you down. And I'm not sure there's a Jewish equivalent.
No one likes to show off.
Yeah, well, but that's the point. It's like, oh, they're showing off. So the ill will, the intent will bring them down. There's like this whole thing. In fact, sorry, let me get this correct. I'm gonna Google nazar and pull this shit up. Nazar meaning.
You've got a nice community in your stream, man. It's fun. It's really cool.
Yeah, they're lovely. Everybody's lovely.
Thanks for all this like love that you're putting in the chat, gang. It's lovely to see.
In fact, let's ask the community what is evil eye? Yeah, the evil eye. Yeah,
Evil eye.
Nitin's
Oh
right.
God,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big thing in our culture. Evil eye. Yeah, my nana was terrified. The evil eye.
So yeah, nazar means evil eye. Yeah, exactly that. And I think that with I'm not going to get too personal, but there's a certain sort of let me work this out. There's a certain way of behaving that is self-destructive in keeping these beliefs, essentially. You know, it's just like, well, everyone's going to wish us ill anyway, so we won't share our problems and make them right. And so therefore, those problems almost become like a focal. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people in my life, a generation or so above us, or two generations above us. So
it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right, where this bad thing will happen, therefore it happens. Or there's like a way of a fear of spreading goodness, because if I share my bounty and my joy, I'll be struck down because it'd be misinterpreted as pride. And it's fascinating because when you mentioned about sort of sharing things that affect you negatively, it's also perhaps I guess sorry, in this long-winded point, I guess my question is that culturally for you, is it the same as sharing good things as well? Is there a reluctance to share good things as well as bad things?
I think like social media is very filtered, isn't it? Like people, I think it's definitely changing. Like I say, if you go to sort of TikTok and Clubhouse, people are much more real, but definitely Instagram, Facebook, people tend to filter their lives and just show you the good bits.
But for you talking personally about your stuff, in fact, your culture, in your background, I mean.
I don't know. Like I think I when I first started getting into the public eye, I assumed you had to only shout about your wins. Like I didn't.
And there was no community backlash or anything within your family, or like, okay, look at this guy, he's a prick, and I wish his family
No,
ill or anything like that at all.
no, I don't think so. Like
That's awesome.
my family were mostly right there with me. Um, yeah, but I didn't have like a lot of my extended family weren't around anymore. Like we kind
Mm.
of, I grew up in a really big uh, Arabic Israeli family, but like the older generation just seemed to just all disappear at once. Um, yeah, so I kind of felt quite isolated from my roots anyway. I kind of felt like I had to choose my own family,
Mm.
and that was Foreign Beggars, that was beatboxing community, that was, you know, people I met in this world. Like I
Mm.
never felt more accepted than when I decided to become an artist. Before that, I
Mm.
felt like an outsider, an immigrant, a foreign name, foreign. You know, no one in my school had parents who spoke different languages. Like I went to such a sleepy middle class white school, and I just felt lucky that my skin didn't betray my
Your
immigrant status.
actual status, yeah. So
So
I mean, I asked that. I asked that because I guess I'm projecting. I think it was sort of this one assumption that when I started being on TV in like the late '90s,
mm,
people would come up to my mom at the temple and be like, "Oh,
mm,
oh, your son's on TV, and therefore you must therefore live in like a desert island and be
yeah,
retired." It's like, nah, my parents run a fucking corner shop and a working class. You know what I mean? And I guess I was wondering if there was some equivalency for you in that
um,
trajectory.
I don't think so. Like I don't know. I don't really know what it was like for my family. Like my mum and my dad didn't understand it at all until I started getting on TV, and that's when they were like, "Ah, okay."
Mm.
I think they just thought I was messing around until that happened. But my mum, before she became my manager, she really didn't understand it. I remember
Sorry,
her
also, your
just,
mum became your manager is the most Jewish thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be like so stereotypical, like, bruv, that's like keep it in the family like a motherfucker. Oh,
yeah,
I mean, sorry, actually, that came out wrong. Sorry, I'll rephrase that, but you know what I mean. Yes.
yeah. But like,
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
I remember my mum describing to her Israeli dancing friends when they were like, "What is this beatboxing thing?" And my mum described it as, she said, "You know, boom pish." Like that's the way she described it. I'm like, "Mum, that doesn't tell them anything. Like, what does that mean?" Um, yeah. But I'm sorry that happened to you, man. That sucks. That
Oh,
you
I
know.
don't give a fuck. It actually made it stronger for me. Like I was just wondering whether it was a similar thing for another minority community. That's all. That's what I was asking. It was just like
Yeah.
that sort of weird, I guess, weird perspective of fame. And maybe that's a question for Nitin as well. It's like a kind of like, did everyone suddenly go what, or whatever. Um, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
felt like I sacrificed a lot of my personal life, my family and my friends. Like I missed all their weddings. I missed all of their babies being born. I missed all of that because I was on tour. So
hmm.
whilst everyone else was having a normal 20s and early 30s, I just wasn't there.
I'm
And
sorry, I was
that,
on tour just having the best time of my life.
but that's what they thought. But no, you know, I never told anyone that I wasn't happy doing that. I kept it a
Yeah.
secret. So
Was it difficult for you to kind of, I guess, like accept that and then work through it? You went through that whole process and then again turn that into art, which is what you've done.
yeah, I guess so, man. Like it was a bit of a nightmare because I mean, I'd had that 2 years off tour without being able to perform. And I came back in 2019, the album came out, and then I turned the album into a stage show. The album was called Surrender, and then I made a stage show called Surrender where I told the story of what happened to me set to the music. And then that got nominated for the Edinburgh Fringe Mental Health Award, and the whole tour sold out. And I was like, yeah, I went from 2017, 2018, I didn't do hardly any, did about like maybe 5 or 6 shows. I did something like 140 shows in 2019, and then 2020 was set to be like, but this time different. This time, like, yes, whirlwind, but this time with me having my head, you know,
In it, in the game. Yeah.
my head and my heart on the same team. And it was heartbreaking what happened in 2020. I mean, I'm okay with it now. I'm kind of I'm at peace with it, but it was, man. I made this show So during that 2019 run of Surrender the Show, I found something that I'd never found before, which was that I love to tell a story which really needs the audience to sit down. But I also love to make really crazy, ravey music, which really needs the audience to stand up.
Right.
So I'd have frustrations if I played at raves or big festival shows.
It's like it's basically Giles Peterson's life.
Yeah, right. Like I'd be frustrated because if I was in a standing venue, they wouldn't listen to what I was saying, and if I played in a seated venue, they'd complain that they wanted to dance and they'd get up and dance in the aisles. Anyway, so in this show I did in 2019, I found the answer because I did a show in Edinburgh Festival. I was basically in a really dirty nightclub where they'd put some chairs in. And they started the show, and they started seated, and I told them the story about surviving suicidal, the brink of suicide.
Which is the best start to a rave you could ever imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was like, can we celebrate? I'm still here. You're still here. We'd all cried together. We'd all been broken together. And I was like, and I'm here and I want to start celebrating. Can we please do this together? And they, on the very first night of the run, they kicked their chairs away for like the last part of the show, the last 20 minutes of the show. And that just turned into this crazy, I'm alive celebration. And I was like, I found it. That's what I need to do. I need to do a show that starts off theatre and then becomes a rave. So I wrote an entire show of this new genre that I call rave theatre. And that was due to open last summer in 2020. And it tells the story of how I hosted this event in my house when I wasn't well enough to go out. My family and friends came to me for my birthday, and we had this rave in my house in this sleepy village that we live in. And it changed my life. And then in this show that I've written, the audience play the villagers who came to my house. So the doorbell goes, and I'm like, shit, that's them. You need to move the chairs. You need to hit the lights. You need to play the music, and we have a rave. So yeah, it's now going to be next summer, bro. It's going to be 2022 before this thing I'm so excited about finally sees the public eye. But I'm working on it all the time, and there's an album that goes with it. My second album. It's all really rave, really nostalgic, really. It's just that it solves everything for me. It's like, I want to have a rave and I want to get deep, and we can do both.
And I think the whole point of intros in most rave tunes is that you're sitting and then it just comes and you're fucking lifted.
Yeah. That's it.
I mean, that shit.
I want to encapsulate that into a performance.
Like, here's the 40-year-old ravers.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a big market. Like, that's why all my output at the moment is about rave. There's this like huge audience of people, young and old, but a lot of them are older, who witnessed it the first time round, who just want to rave. So we've been doing these raves from home during the pandemic, and they've been just getting more and more crazy, absolutely crazy. The last one we had like 35 acts in 7 virtual arenas. And then we were starting getting phone calls. We got a phone call from like Take That's management, because Howard from Take That is a DJ and he wanted to play. Like, oh, these people. Yeah, Jax Jones did a set, and then Nitin, he played at one of our raves. Like, it's just been mad. Like, the people want to rave, so I'm gonna do it.
100%. That's awesome, bro. That's the rave you did last week for Calm, right?
Yeah. We did a rave to celebrate British summertime. The clock's changing, because that's always a real moment for me, like a turning point.
Oh, mate, it's lifted the whole fucking country, quite frankly. Like, yes.
Yeah. Well,
man.
I was a bit disappointed that I still felt sad after it happened, but
Bro, that's the calm down, man. That's what happens. You get happy and then you get sad. It's just the inevitable sadness.
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you that.
I looked at my social media, I looked at my grid the other day, and I noticed a pattern where it's like throughout the week, because I do my live stream on Thursday, so throughout the week there's all this amazing positive content and like energy and charisma and excitement and music, and then on the weekends there's just like sad selfies of me being like, oh. And they're the ones that get all of the likes. I'm like, guys, all week I'm putting out this like pioneering content, And all you're engaging with me is me saying I still have depression. Like, there's so much more to me than that.
Bro, it's all about that or your tits. Bro, honestly, like of all the... Okay, so here's the thing. The whole reason for doing these chats has been for me to wash, essentially. That's all it is. And this is week 56, I think, now. Every week of doing these chats with a mate, which is awesome. So thank you for indulging my ego and my own fucking...
Honored to be your 56 friend.
My own washing routine. But the point is that the stats don't matter. So from like I try and ignore the numbers and whatever the fuck, and I just don't care because
I've got here in the top corner of my phone, I've got a piece
5.
of tape.
Ah,
Yeah,
piece of tape. Excellent. The number 5 or
I tape it over the number.
Yeah.
Because then I can't see how many people are watching and not be distracted by it.
So I use this to stop me from seeing anything. And it's wonderful. And the point is that it's the trying to enforce our conversation as content for an algorithm is bollocks. Like, fuck it. It's not what these conversations are about at all. And that may be sort of sacrificing a business approach or saying what's happening next or like sponsors and all these things. And big up Mana. Thank you, Mana. Excellent. And big up Adrian. Yes. It is just literally a mechanism for me to stay sane and talk to a friend, essentially.
I think that's amazing. I think that's what social media should be for. And that then becomes an empowering space rather than a judgment space. And I love that, man. I've always wanted to get into live streaming, and I was doing some live streaming, I was doing it monthly before pandemic, and since the pandemic I'm doing it weekly, and I love it. I've learned so much. I've connected with so many amazing artists, but the main thing is it's my space. So like, I quite often...
You'd think there would be a social networking site called that, that would have started this whole thing, right?
MySpace. That's a good idea. I should copyright that. But it's like... Quite often, I'll have a huge stream planned, and I've had it planned for weeks, and I've had it all lined up. And quite often, literally 24 hours before, I'm like, actually, no, let's not do that at all. I'll do something else. You can't do that in any other medium. You cannot do that with a stage show where you've sold tickets or booked the venue or what, flyers, whatever. Like, I love the freedom of it. I love my international audience. I love, it's just whatever I want to say. I can just be real. Like, you can't really do that, like, in any other medium. If you book a run of shows, you kind of got to deliver what you said you were going to deliver. You can't just indulge yourself in the same way you can, like we can do this right now.
Yeah.
You just end it and no one can say anything because it's a free live stream.
And also, like, I've peed a million times through my streams, but also on that note, I think I need to go pee, but for real this time. But look, thank you for joining me, and thank you for having this chat, and thank you, Pretty, in the comments. Big up. And yes, big love, bruv. It was lovely catching up. When are you live next?
I'll be live next tomorrow. Tomorrow night, every Thursday, I'll go live 8:30 UK time, and I just do whatever I feel. I do lots and lots of collaborations with other artists and making music in real time.
Nice.
DJing, beatboxing, live looping, partying, whatever I can. Still trying to get Nitin to come on again. Nitin, come and join one of my Thursdays again.
Dude, Nitin is too busy knitting. This is so bad. I'm going to go wee. Okay, bye.